Okay, hello everybody. My name is Liane Zinke. I'm here to introduce Odila Weigand. Before I speak about the introduction here, I have some script to tell you. Welcome everyone. Before we start, I will give you some technical information to follow this webinar. First, you will need to activate the interpreting function, please. Select the globe icon with the word interpretation in the Zoom toolbar. Yeah? If you can find it, click the 3 points with the label order. I'm speaking very slowly, then you can understand me. And click on your language. For the questions to the speaker, you can write them in keyway box below also. Please write them in English or Italian, not in other language. Use the chat only for greetings and technical questions. I hope you understand. If you have more questions, now I'm ready to introduce Odila. Odila Weigand. She lives and works in São Paulo. She's a psychologist and master in clinical psychology. She belongs to the IIBA as faculty since 2015. She also was training in the core energetic and bioscience. She's a member of IIBSP, the Bioenergetic Institute of São Paulo. She has a clinical practice in São Paulo, presential and online. She also is a supervisor and she does supervision group and individual. She trains in several cities in Brazil, and also she trains in the Moscow training group. She also wrote a book called Grounding. Well, we'll have 90 minutes that she's going to speak, and then if you want to make a questions, in the end of this, we have 30 minutes for questions. Now I would like you to close your windows and we can dialogue in the final moment after Odila speak. Okay, Odila, good luck. Now it's with you.
Okay. I would still have a question that people can write questions in Portuguese that you would take care of translating.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, because they said only questions in Italian and in English, and many Brazilians would like to pose questions maybe. So maybe you can take care of, talk to Marco about it, okay?
Yeah, okay, of course.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. And I want to thank first IIBA BOT and especially my friend Patricia Moselli and the Italian Society friends who are working hard to produce this historical series of webinars. And thank you, Liane Zinke, my friend and teacher. She is doing here her soul mission, helping people to grow, as usual. Well, to start this conversation, I want to share a personal experience. I studied characterology with Reich and Lowen, from Reich and Lowen for 10 years. I was teaching characterology in Brazil. But in the sessions, when it came to apply character structures, theory to therapy, I found myself stuck. And I ended up working on improving the flow of energy and easing blockages, which certainly gives good results to some extent. Hello, Patricia. Good to see you. In 1989, I participated in the Whistler Conference in Canada. Patricia was there also. She told me about it. And I was assigned to Ben Shapiro's therapy group. He had developed and written an article giving the devil his due, and it was about his understanding of work with negativity. At the time, for me, it was new and exciting. And next year, I liked so much this workshop that I went to Ben's workshop in Hawaii. And then I convinced people here. I was so enthusiastic that we organized with Liane's group and the Institute of São Paulo. We organized a workshop for Ben here in São Paulo with about 26 colleagues attending. So Ben was introduced to the Brazilian therapists. He was teaching a smart and humorous technique to work bodily with negativity in character analysis. He proposed the existence of an inner devil, which he called a trickster, because some people could not deal with the word devil because of religion associations. So he called it the trickster, the card that can replace many cards in the card game. And just reminding that Reich also in Ether, Good, God, and Devil, he said that the chronic armoring is the domain of the devil. And Reich thought this devil was something to be fought, that it was really evil. Shapiro, on the other hand, explored the idea of accessing the trickster in its resident in the human body. And where is this residence? The abdomen, the source of life, the earliest source of nourishment, close to the umbilical button. Qi for the Chinese. That's where he proposed we could find, or we could invite the devil from its cave to come out into the open. Well, just take a breath, because I need to take a breath. No wonder that the idea of a devil inhabiting our body sounds scary. But he thought that this devil's intention is to protect us. It can be assessed with humor if we can meet the trickster and step by step, play with it, step by step. Shapiro used very high energy charges, breathing, sound, and energizing exercises, because Reich said that the dead energy in the body was also the seat of armor and bad energy, door energy. But in Shapiro's proposal, the main resource were the words and phrases that the therapy suggests to express the secret and smart malice contained in negativity. The malice is very important, to bring it out and to be able to play with it, to reckon and appreciate it instead of trying to eliminate. Well, this is just a short introduction of our team, resistance and negativity. Let's see some history. starting with Freud. In 1914, Freud stated in the history of psychoanalytic movement that two concepts, resistance and transference, are characteristic of a therapeutic approach to be considered part of psychoanalysis. Freud said the simple translation of an unconscious idea into consciousness is not enough to carry out a cure. Analytical work depends on eliminating resistance and managing transference. I want to remark eliminating resistance. It was considered important at the time. We must deal with resistance to analysis, following from the analysis of symptoms to the analysis of personality as a whole. So Freud also took this step from symptom to character. Following him, Reich organized the defenses as patterns that combine body and psychic traits, his big contribution to psychoanalysis and psychosomatics. These patterns gave origin to character analysis, and you can refer to his book. Well, let's take a short breath. And I'm going to follow my slides while I talk to you, because I can organize my thoughts in the conversation, okay? So I'm going to share my screen. Just a second. So here we are. We have our masters, Alexander Lowen, John Pierrakos, and Bennett Shapiro. Soon you will see why I'm bringing John Pierrakos here also to speak about negativity. So we have their faces here: Freud, Reich, Lowen, Pierrakos, and I include Boadella also, because Boadella gave a big contribution with the soft part, that we should work more softly and attain very good results. And I include Ben Shapiro in this list of our great masters. Well, so I said he organized the defenses as patterns that combine body and psychic traits, and these patterns were the origin of character analysis. Character was viewed by the psychoanalysts as resistance and something to be eliminated. Nowadays, I'm going to advance to you that we may think of character as resilience, as an important part that constitutes the ego. So there is a part of character that we should, as our colleague Proviniano Rezende proposes, softening the armor, but not eliminating the armor, because then we are in trouble if you succeed to eliminate the armor. Reich again, he proposed to move from content to the form and expression, to look at the form of the body, looking for how the client does or behaves or speaks instead of content, of what, and to ask what for. What's this good for, instead of why? And it makes some difference when you are working with clients. Now, Lowen, he proposes, and that's very important when we look at character structures and body reading, I'll know that. He says, you are your body, although the body bears trauma and scars and has created its survival strategies or characterological resistances. You are not your character. The character does not define someone. You are much more than that, what each is about to be revealed, I hope in therapy or in life. And the same idea, Pierrakos and Boadella agreed that essence is what defines a person, not the character structure, which is just a cover for the essence. This is a human being whose functioning is failing. This is very important for us these days to understand that the functioning of the character structures is failing in some aspects. And the soul has an innate radiance and beauty which therapy aims to restore. That's our job. That's what we expect to be able to. And I want to remind that the word resistance is used in different contexts. So nowadays we see resistance used in social and political forms of the combat, like the French resistance during the Second World War. They called themselves the resistance. And nowadays we have movements in favor of political and social change, feminism, minorities, and resistance against social inequality, domestic violence, racism, etc. And these items may be part of psychotherapy. However, during this conversation, I will leave aside this meaning, the special meaning of resistance, and deal with the personal resistance to therapy and to change, okay, related to character armor and life experiences and memories of all kinds. So resistance in psychotherapy needs to be understood, taking into account subjectivity, character organization, the social, racial, cultural, and gender context, and psychodynamics early and present, as well as transference, okay? Everything is included in what we are going to look at, calling it resistance. And Lowen used to say, we deaden our bodies to avoid our fear. And I would ask that we see today that we seek excitement and acceleration to avoid our deadness. That's mainly, not mainly, but very often what we have to deal with. Excitement and acceleration, taking the space of relationships and emotions. Well, here we see that Freud, Reich, and Lowen agreed that resistance, instead of being a nuisance in the psychotherapy, they finally came to the conclusion that it was very useful. From resistance, you could obtain a hypothesis, diagnostic hypothesis, and you could also imagine the personality structure behind the resistance. So Reich could, when he found the patterns, the character patterns, he also combined with the patterns of resistance that would apply to different characters. Okay. So, no. And so we see that resistances are considered now, no, back. Resistance are seen as survival mechanisms. If we did not build character resistance, it would be very hard to survive the traumas that we receive in life as children and even in other periods of life. Because character grows, matures, as we mature also, and changes and builds new resistances, new traits, and sometimes it's necessary. Awareness of resistance, observing. So we have awareness observing what? How the resistance manifests in the body, the posture, facial expression, voice, contractions, breathing, symptoms, etc. What is the resistance against? It's protecting what? And how? How it's expressed, bodily, voice, everything that we can observe. And very important, what's the secondary gain? What's the pleasure? What's the pleasure, the secret pleasure hidden behind resistance? And here we can see already the trickster peeking at us, you know? Aha, here I am. There is some pleasure here, some secret, some malice. And what's the fear behind resistance? And different fears. It may be a major fear, a major trauma, or more soft or light fears. Depends the quality and the intensity of resistances then. Shapiro, on his side, he taught us to appreciate and even love our resistances. And now here's a question: resistance or negativities? In my perception, I think Shapiro dealt more with the negativities, the devil, than the deep fear. But maybe some people will not agree. But we see the difference between eliminating resistances and someone who says, no, we got to love resistances, we pay attention, it's important, we can take information from the resistance. And now he said, welcome resistance, let's play with it. It's very useful. And so here we have the trickster. We'll call it trickster instead of devil, but if you read Shapiro, you will find the word devil there. So maybe we can think of a little devil, a playful devil, a charming devil, okay? Because inside you'll find your child's devil, the devil that protected you where you were when you were very small. So it will be more simple and more fearful. The adult's devil, the parental devil, those that we inherit from our parents, those words, will never be anyone in your life, you'll never succeed, you are useless. That's the parental devil. Or the parent who used to drink, and then the children maybe think it's natural for an adult to drink a lot. The culture's devil. Culture's devil is something we're very subject to these days. The culture coming through internet, through Facebook, through social media, invading us. The social devil, also the difficulties with social life, and the different ways the media devil tries to induce us to consume or to watch violence as entertainment. And then let's bring in John Pierrakos. He was Lowen's former partner. Founded bioenergetics, they started bioenergetics together back in the 1960s, 70s. So, and Pierrakos, I did the training. I did 5 years training of core energetics. He gave personally the training here in Brazil, in Brasilia. And he gave a very important place to negativity in psychotherapy. Actually, he said we should look at negativity first place and cross this level of negativity to reach the core. Pierrakos and Odila, they introduced the idea of spirituality very much earlier than Lowen in psychotherapy, because Lowen only in 2005, he published his book Spirituality and the Body, if I'm not mistaken. And at the time, in the 90s and 80s of the last century, he feared to be called mystical. So he accepted Pierrakos' views. He has a chapter in Depression and the Body, speaking about Pierrakos' views and the human energy field, okay? But he was very cautious about spirituality, to include it openly in psychotherapy. So for me, like Pierrakos authorized me to work directly with in psychotherapy, and Odila too, to introduce spirituality, which doesn't mean religion, of course. It's something to deal with the client's spiritual beliefs, or just to deal with the field, the natural field. And then Pierrakos brought this image of St. George and the dragon in a constant fight. St. George on his white horse, constantly fighting the dragon, but not killing him, never killing him. Dragon and St. George are inseparable, always together, always in conflict, and there is no winner. So I saw some similarity here between the trickster and the dragon with St. George. Both said that the trickster or dragon is not to be killed, and we got to deal with him. We got to negotiate with him and find better solutions, but it will always be there. And what's interesting about this personage, it holds high energy charge. A great part of the life energy is being held in this personage, and with the function of protection. So we can read this personage as a part that composes the armor, but it's a special part with these qualities of trickster and this quality of the dragon, this quality of protection, of malice, of hiding in the dark. And we can train our eyes to read the presence of this presence when it shows in therapy, to bring it out, play with it. And what else? And the idea is that we could reinvest if we bring it out and we can see this figure, its intention, its positive intention, if we can negotiate with this part of the ego, maybe the energy invested in the devil or the dragon can be released in favor of love, creativity, autonomy, self-esteem, and effective action in the world. So we trade. We got to be smart to trade energy with this figure. It is part of the ego. So I came to understand that people who are dealing with pre-verbal stuff, this technique is not adequate for them, because a small child doesn't have this malice. Only later on, the person can build its own trickster or its own dragon as protection, and build attitudes corresponding to dragon and trickster. Like, I'll never fall in love again. I'll never believe in man again. All men will always betray me. And these kind of beliefs that the dragon or the trickster impose as protection. And we are happy to, sometimes we're happy to believe, because you feel safe with it. So here, something that at the time Pierracos didn't deal much with the trauma theory, even though he was a doctor, but it was not explored as it is today. And neither did Shapiro. They were more intuitive. Nowadays, we can focus that at the root of resistances, we will find some kind of trauma, and consequently, the freezing response. So the freezing response as a consequence of trauma and at the origin of resistances, okay? When we are dealing with primary trauma, as well as later traumas, resistances are perceived as survival mechanisms. It's really felt as true. If I give in, I won't survive. Because for an individual, life itself is in danger if one relinquishes the embodied protective mechanism. At the time when I built this defense, it was so important to be able to build that defense, because at that time, I felt I could die from the suffering. So this defense really saved my life. And then it is built into the body, and it stays as a survival mechanism for life So we can call it structural resistance, a resistance that's part of our structure. And when you try to touch or to propose a change, person really feels the life is being threatened. And then nowadays we can immediately think of everything we learn about treating trauma and associate and bodily also work with character resistances in the body when you learn how to deal with trauma in the body and combine it with analysis to do a work where you feel more safe. You feel therapists can feel walking on safer grounds than before. I want to invite you to breathe and stretch for a moment. Okay, let's do it. For a moment, just breathe and stretch. I'll stop sharing. And just do it with me. Deeply. Stretch. Open, pick up some air and bring it in. Because this subject is quite heavy sometimes, just to pay attention. And our brain keeps working fast and making connections, associations, trying to keep it in mind. Maybe you want to write your questions. Drink some water. Move, stretch your legs, ankles. Okay, let's go back to our resistances and inner devils. So here we are, looking at the freezing response, thinking of those movies of the gazelle, when the gazelle escapes the predator and begins to breathe with the lower belly to recover, and then start trembling, start vibrating, and be ready to run and go for life again. Wow. So let's figure that gazelle and bring back our life, our aliveness, so we can continue looking at some more slides. So what happens? In face of the freezing response, the affective limbic system, okay, the limbic system, which should take care of the impulses that come from the world and from the reptilian complex. If I begin to touch resistances, the reptilian complex will immediately stand up on guard and send messages to the brain, careful, danger. And the neocortex should decide what to do, okay? And if the stimulation is too strong, too much, Simply, the limbic system cannot interfere, and the neocortex is attacked by all this energy and takes over. Then there is confusion, there is other kinds of resistance, like leaking energy out of the body, fainting, okay? Some reactions we prefer to avoid in the therapy session. Being careful, step by step. As Angela Klopstock, she warns her in her very good article about the use of catharsis, when catharsis is helpful and when it should be, we should take care. And so we look at this image, which I hope is familiar to you. When you are thinking of trauma, as Brasilia taught us, the importance of dealing with the psoas system, the importance of bringing breathing to the belly button here, the belly button in this area, okay? To dissolve the freezing response from the autonomic nervous system, okay? The dorsal vagus response, which happens to be in this area. So all the movements, everything you can do, kicking, stool vibrations, the butterfly, whatever movements that you can induce breathing to happen here in this area and dissolve. At the same time, provide grounding to the legs and dissolve the freezing response when you are touching, proposing to deal with survival mechanisms, okay? So we look at resistances with sympathy. We love resistance, okay? And we can deal with it using everything we have learned lately from Porges and the other researchers about trauma to deal with resistances bodily and analytically. And different levels of resistance, of course. Very early resistance, which is structural, has no memories, it's only bodily, there is no malice, there is no negotiation on that level. So there we find deficits that need to be fulfilled. It's different from a narcissistic, phallic narcissistic defense. Okay. I invite you to take a breath and to remind everything you know, everything you have learned about trauma, about dealing with the autonomic nervous system, about the vagus nerve, the frontal vagus, which we want to bring forward, possibility of trust, the possibility of grounding, the possibility of movement forward, and dissolve the reptilian freezing response to move ahead with resistances, with the work of resistance and the therapy. either verbal or bodily, because even verbal interpretations made fire the freezing response. So we propose what? Make friends with resistance. Instead of the previous idea from Freud and Reich that thought it should be dissolved and everything would be fine if we dissolved resistance, we became aware of the importance of the armor, the body armor, because it provides resilience. It provides the possibility of dealing with frustration, dealing with difficulties, overcoming difficulties and losses, which are inevitable in life. Deceptions, betrayals. Someone dies. If we don't have a good armor, we fall apart. It doesn't mean we don't have feelings of sadness and despair, but be able to go ahead after some time. So the idea is, in the first place, in the therapist's heart, to make friends with resistance. And then you have to deal with countertransference. How this client touches me. What's my countertransference to this kind of resistance that looks just like my mother's devil? This client has the same words as my mother's devil. And that's the problem that we take to supervision. How can I make friends with my client's resistance? How can I like this resistance so that I can bring information from the resistant itself? So the idea is we intend to play a game where we are partners. We are partners playing on the same team to reach a common goal. We try to avoid the posture of standing and confronting openly. We confront, but we confront when I can, at the same time, feel that I have my hand behind the client to support the client in his fear, of her fear, this deathly fear that we are touching together. And let's see. Pierrakos from core energetics, because Lowen used to show us, oh, I have to go down there to pick up Lowen's scheme. Lowen used to show us this scheme to represent the armor system and how the life force hit against a barrier here, okay? And when this life force hit against the barrier, it came back, it returned inside in the form of anguish. And it affected the core, the biological center. It would reinforce the muscular armor. And only a small part of this primal portion could reach the surface, the periphery, and had to divide into a secondary portion, a neurotic symptom. Okay, so this was how Lowen representative, I think it, Love, Sex, and Your Heart, his book. And he says, in an armored organism, the repression of the primary impulse produces a secondary impulse and anguish. Okay. Now, I want to return to the model proposed by core energetics, which some more details. Here we have representation of the core self, which he calls the higher self, or the soul, the site of the soul, okay? Then surrounded by ego, of course. And this ego will also hold, of course, here there are the qualities, spirituality, love, pleasure, ecstasy, intelligence, power, willpower, qualities, ego qualities. And then this part here, called the lower self, the hidden emotions, emotions that we cannot confess, emotions that we fear, emotions that we don't want to feel and that we don't want other people to know about, the lower self. I think this is the area that Shapiro would deal with. But also Shapiro was very smart to deal with the mask. Okay, this nice mask that we show to the world outside, to be accepted, to be loved. And it's interesting here in this proposition from core energetics that this mask self takes the qualities from the higher self. So from the mask, you can deduce what's the big quality, what's the big gift that inhabits the center, the self. Okay, so once you cross the mask, you are going to find the real gold of the personality. But this mask, the difference is this mask is de-energized. People ask, how do I know it's the mask? The mask doesn't convince you. If someone is crying and you don't feel anything, you don't feel any compassion, you cannot empathize with sadness or pain. It's the mask that's crying and hiding some contrary. This is where Shapiro helps us. Look at the contrary. Look at, not the contrary, at the polarity. If this person is crying, oh, playing the victim, what's the real lower devil saying? The real devil is angry, is very angry. Okay? So to identify and to differentiate between the feelings from this lower self and someone be very angry, very indignant, and saying, I cannot stand it, I think I'm going to kill somebody, I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to crush my car because I'm so angry. And then this person may be hurt. Deep inside, he's hurt. So we don't believe in the ego mask. And it's very common that we are confused by the mask, and we buy the mask as the truth. So here is where you can start with Shapiro's techniques to deal with this anger and exaggerate it. Exaggerate until it breaks through. And Lowen used to do that also when he asked someone who was very angry to kick until the person was absolutely exhausted. And after the exhausting, usually came what? Crying. So it was crossing the mask also and reaching the true feeling behind, hidden behind. Okay. But I think this map is very useful, especially for the therapist to recognize and to feel it's okay when I don't resonate with the feeling this person is bringing. However, this feeling, I may increase it and energize it, and let's do more of it. Let's find the words that bring it out. So I'm so angry I could kill someone. And you will remember Lowen with that exercise he proposed in groups. Oh, I could kill you. I could kill you. And you had to scream it and grit your teeth and show your pulse, like you were punching someone. I could kill you. I think it's a mask feeling here to bring maybe the real hurt from which I'm so angry that I might wish to kill someone. But the healing feeling would be the hurt. And this anger, we got to expose it and discharge it somehow, recognize it, validate it. Okay. Well, this is what I meant to show, and I think it's a big contribution to differentiate the energy of the ego mask and how you, as therapists, receive it and has difficulty to resonate with it. And then when you cannot resonate, you realize, well, probably I'm dealing with a mask. And it's time for you to ground and breathe and try to peek behind the mask. What could be behind? Usually hurt, fear, sorrow, real anger. The victim has real anger to bring out. And then realize that whatever shows in the mask is just something that connects with the center. So in each character, Donald Robbins made us aware that each character has a special quality, a special gift. And this gift will manifest in the ego mask, but it will manifest in a distorted way, in a way that doesn't bring good results, in a way that people don't believe in it. But it is a hint of what is contained here. It is a hint of this quality that probably will be a solution for this person to follow, to provide more resources, to develop this quality that appears as the mask. So the schizoid will have artistic qualities or a great intelligence, and the Oro will have loving and communication qualities. The masochist will be would be happy to serve and help people, be helpful. The rigids to do the good job. And the psychopaths, they can be good leaders. But in the mask, they need to take over, they need to control, they had to put people down, they need to win over and to be over people and be always right. So this would be the part that you would use the devil to approach those resistances. For instance, for a psychopath, to ask him to climb on a small platform and say, I am the best. I'm always the best. I win, I must win. I must always be in control. And really energize those words with the devil's laugh. Well, let's see. Winnicott, he mentions that resistance and negativity, he puts them together in the mother-baby relationship, conscious or unconscious. But let's imagine what's a resistance and what's a negativity. Like mother can be very tired and say, oh my God, again, this child is crying in the middle of the night. I can't stand it anymore. It would be negativity because finally she will get up, she'll pick up the baby, she will nurse the baby. Okay, but for a moment, she felt negativity, like, oh, I wish baby didn't cry. I wish it wasn't here today. And resistance is much more serious, it's deep. Those mothers who coming out of the hospital go to therapy and say, I had to ask my mother-in-law to take the baby away because I had impulses to throw it out of the window. And there's a serious, there is big trauma behind it. Okay? Difference from the light negativity. So both can exist in the relationship of mother and baby, but in different ways. On the other hand, Donald Winnicott calls our attention to the child negativity as an ability to create and destroy, the role of play in elaboration of negativity, like the child of 2, 3-year-old, they say no, no, no. Even if he wants, do you want this cookie? No, of course he wants the cookie and he'll eat it soon. But the first moment he'll say no, and he may throw the cookie on the floor because he's trying to explore and to decide what it wants and to deal with ambivalence. So the child is building a skill in the negativity at this age. Okay? So it's important for the adolescent also to rebel. It's important to build its own identity. So negativity has an important part, and it will be different from the resistance that originates from trauma. I'm bringing this because it's how I try to understand and separate those two words, which usually are using one for the other. And now again, we have this image from core energetics saying that the life force represented by this thick cord, okay, should be the life force. And negativity takes possession and engages and wraps around. And the pleasure of doing it, there is some pleasure present in the life force current. And there is the negative pleasure, okay, connecting negativity with the life force and kind of stealing energy from there. Okay, like when you see someone who's stealing energy from the neighbor's light connection. I don't know, in some countries it's not possible. Here in Brazil it is. They climb on the light post and make a connection and steal the energy there. So there's negativity. There is some pleasure. Okay, let's understand this. It's very deep. How to uncover this pleasure. The flow of negative energy could never succeed if it were not intertwined with the flow of vital energy, obtaining some sensation of pleasure. If it did not connect, intertwine, steal energy, because this doesn't have its own energy. The baby is not born with negativity, but the life energy is there. And negativity comes with malice, with the intention to protect identity, and then they move forward in life and reinforcing this connection. This is a very good image that I was lucky to find. And then we have repetition, this dynamic, as it brings pleasure, as it works in protection, it tends to be repeated, okay? And then we have these words, we deaden our bodies to avoid our fear of death. This is Lowen, and he has a very good chapter about the will to live and the wish to die. I think this image shows the will to live and the wish to die. Okay? When you make an effort, a conscious effort to overcome this negativity and to get free of it, and you want to use your will. And then as the pleasure says, no, 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 don't do that. You are going to die. I'm here to protect you. I'm here to not allow you fall into this trap your therapist is proposing. Okay. And in our life, what we do, because this emptiness is unbearable. And then we look for excitement to avoid our deadness. Excitement may arrive through danger, to exposing to real danger, like running or running in excessive speed in a car, in a motorcycle. The pleasure of exposing to danger. This excitement to avoid our deadness. Lowen speaks in one of his books of a client who was a climber, climbed mountains, and enjoyed this danger. Climbed mountains, and he was a very good climber. But there's a kind of excitement like facing death, and the happiness of saying, oh, I won. Death didn't catch me this time. It's like overcoming castration. And we have one more to consider, this enmeshment here of the life force and this kind of snake. The embodied state of overexcitement, the state of dopaminergic, intertwines with the life force. And we feel as if they were the same. We cannot perceive the difference. And so there is this belief that if I'm not overexcited, I may die, or I may never have any pleasure. So I'll be looking for overexcitement all the time. We can observe this in this exchange of sexual partners. The usual sexual partner, with time, doesn't overexcite me anymore. So we better change, because otherwise my libido would die. I can't have pleasure, because there is this enmeshment here that in my body can only register some pleasure if I offer overexcitement. And every time I need to offer more excitement, more and more. And so neuroscience explains, it's very self-explaining. Neurons that fire together wire together. And through repetition, the brain is wired. So the brain acquires a structure. Okay. That's why the resistances, they appear as structural resistances. And they give the message that if you touch that, you may die, because new neuronal nets were organized from this connection here. Okay. But we got to remember always that very early in life, before the 3.5 years old, I don't believe the child is capable of organizing a negativity in the terms that Shapiro proposes with malice. Then at that time, you begin to see the child playing to tell lies and laugh, and you can see a kind of devilish pleasure in deceiving mother, okay? So it's important, it's an important skill to be able to manage this devil. It's not totally negative, not at all. It's just that we must bring it to consciousness to be able to understand humor, to understand irony instead of being distracted by it, and to understand irony also because you may be careful and not apply irony on your children. protect your children from irony. Really protect, because it hurts seriously. The child cannot understand why people are laughing at her. So the dynamic of repetition, the life force is captured by negativity. And negativity takes the role of survival. And we confuse life force and negativity. And when it is embodied, it may manifest against pleasure, against relaxation. For instance, I cannot relax because if I relax, I'll feel anxious. Once I heard from a cardiologist, and he said, if you have a cardiac patient and you relax him, he may die. He may die because his anxiety will raise tremendously. At the time, I didn't understand, and now I can understand it. Someone who is so armored around the heart. And if you bring soft feelings to this heart may fail because it's being moved by another instance. So embodied negativity manifests against pleasure. I saw an example in the core energetics training, and I also mentioned it in the article. One of the articles that is mentioned in the biography of this presentation. It's called Negativity, the Pathway to SS. And this woman, she had before therapy the idea that she would never find a good male partner for her life. And she had had 3 unsuccessful relationships. And then at the time she had finally found, because of course her unconscious was different and she had attracted a different person. And it seems she had found a good mate for her, a guy who was nice and friendly and relatively successful, and he loved her. Especially, he loved her. He wanted to marry her. And she couldn't take it. She couldn't take it. She couldn't believe. For her, if she accepted and she got involved with him and she fell in love and she let go of her desconfiança, if she trusted him, it meant death. And she worked this in the session until the therapist proposed to her to let go of this belief and her idea and give in to pleasure. And she said, well, a negotiation with her inner devil. I can let go into the abyss of pleasure, the abyss of pleasure. So all she could imagine and see before her eyes were an abyss. If she gave into pleasure, she had to throw herself into an abyss with no protection. So the therapist managed to negotiate with the devil. Okay, maybe now you can say, I can accept the idea of pleasure or something like that. And this she could take at the moment instead of jumping into the abyss of pleasure. She had slowly to make peace with the idea of pleasure and safety in a relationship, because her devil was always saying to her that she would die, she would be hurt again. Okay. And also guilt to sustain the entanglement. If you marry this guy, your mother is going to die of disgust, something like that. Wow. Many ways of manipulating the devil in favor of the parents' devil with guilt. So negative pleasure and suffering. How is that? Just imagine, how can negative pleasure go together with suffering? We associate negative excitement with pleasure. Being rejected makes me stronger. So I prefer to suffer rejection, but I cannot allow to feel vulnerable. Being loved and receptive makes me vulnerable. I'll be in the other person's power. The other will do whatever, will hurt me in any way that pleases him. And I'll be helpless. So better be alone. Better don't take the risk. I prefer to believe that I'll never be loved. And the problem is such things happen because they are self-fulfilling prophecies. If I believe that, I'm going to attract, I'm going to select the person that will really be able to provide me with this kind of relationship. The self-fulfilling prophecy is very well studied in the system theory of communication. Better keep this in mind, self-fulfilling prophecy. So pay attention to what you ask, because your unconscious is hearing, and it may provide you exactly what you are asking for. This is like a joke, but it is warning you against self-fulfilling prophecies. Well, let's see about the timing. At 4, we shall end soon at 4:30, right?
Odila, you still have half an hour.
Oh, yes.
We finish at 5, and then we have the questions.
No, we have finish at 5. We have the questions at 4:30.
Okay.
So soon we have to finish, right?
Yes.
So I'll move quickly through these last observations, like liquid relationships, technology, insecure, chaotic attachment, where we have disoriented people raised by loving, but disoriented parents. And resistance originating from a superego. That's something to really think about, and we discuss again during the questions. A superego that is formed not only by parents and family, but the media forms the superego. Okay? That's something to discuss. And the last image. So maybe we agree or disagree, I don't know, but my perception was that we can call resistance what is structural character defenses, part of our structure, deep defense that really threaten our existence, our life, and it will be a very tough resistance. And then negativity derive from those resistances. The negativity, like thoughts, images, ideas, that we transform into habits and actions. But negativities are easier to be changed and dealt with malice, with this work of the devil, the trickster, the dragon. The negativities have this protective role like a cover. But like someone who builds armor, and then from the armor derives a thought, an idea. And this idea becomes part and takes energy from the life force and gives a feeling also that it is so dangerous, it is deadly. So negativities are easier to move and to cross to reach the real structural resistances. Okay. And the warning that I think early resistances are not adequate to deal with this kind of approach. Well, I think I want to end. I can end here because, oh, that's what I was saying. When trauma strikes very early in life, it's the last message. What protective resources does an infant possess? And most important, which developmental functions remain to be completed? Which deficits will appear in the future that need to be taken care of? Okay, so these early deficits need to be completed, taken care of, and not dealt with as bad or you are resisting. Okay? So I'll stop sharing here and come back for this half-hour conversation.
Okay, thank you, Odila. I will see the questions for you, okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we have one here. It's in Italian. No, the first one. Beatrice. Is the negative pleasure, slide 26.
What?
It's the negative pleasure, slide 26.
I didn't get this word. What's this word?
No slide 26, the negative pleasure. A pleasure itself, does it have any positive purpose? Or is it rather like a death wish?
The negative pleasure, I got it. That's slide 26.
Yeah.
Well, if the negative pleasure has a positive, maybe if she gave an example, because I cannot think of an example here. Of course, the negativity is protective. So if you have to tell a lie to save your life, it's positive. That's why you cannot eliminate the trickster from the ego. The trickster is a skill. The problem is when it turns against you. It kills your real pleasure in life. Maybe I answered it.
If the negative pleasure has any positive purpose.
Yes, the purpose of protection, for sure. Now, depends if this kind of protection is a real protection or is stopping you, preventing you from living a full life. Just think of the example I gave of the woman who could not accept a good partner because she could not trust men in general, because her father was not trustworthy. Or in her family life, men were not trustworthy, they were dangerous.
Okay, let's go for the question 2.
I hope I have answered, yes.
Question 2, it's from Italian, from Alexandra. How to let go of negative beliefs about money? Rationally, we know that money is useful for survival, yet it continues to reject it. Understand?
Yeah, yes, and people who make money, I cannot keep it. Yeah. And other people, money means safety, and they got to make a lot of money and not spend it. It's very common. No, it's complex because it goes deep into survival, because having money in our society also has to do with survival, really, right? It's true. And we have families. I always ask about immigrants, people who immigrate 1 or 2 generations of immigrants. They still keep this idea of poverty and that money needs to be saved, and you cannot spend, you cannot have pleasure, because if you have pleasure, you are threatening your safety, your family's safety. And then the new generations don't agree, and you see this kind of confusion there, because for the old generation, it's true. And for now, maybe it's partly true, not so much true, that spending money, traveling, means you're going to lose all your savings, and then you're going to starve. It's not easy. Laine, our colleague Laine, she uses to do constellations over money to bring out these fears, these beliefs, and to see where they come from. And sometimes they come from the parents' protection and the exaggerated feeling of protection. And sometimes the parents are right, and the young person who never worked to earn money is spending too much. So it's not so easy to deal with the money. But it can be a negative pleasure, okay?
We have 5 questions.
Okay.
One here is in Portuguese. I will read in Portuguese for you and then you can translate. Seria o coringa tipo de ser que tenha pé no medo, outro na negatividade, com mecanismo vivo que funcione de ponte entre ambos os lados, o medo e a negatividade. Uma espécie de mensageiro castrador e, ao mesmo tempo, guardião das chaves da potência pessoal?
Yes. I'm going to translate in English. The question says the trickster. She's referring probably to this movie. So the trickster, a type of being that stands in one foot on fear and the other foot on negativity, is a life-preserving mechanism that works as a bridge among both sides. Both sides are negativity on one side and the fear on the other side. Like a messenger, castrator messenger, and at the same time a guardian of the keys of the potency, of personal potency. Yes, exactly. But all this energy that is held by the trickster and held by the fear, the problem is this fear real today, or is it an inherited fear? Or is it a fear from for instance, I feared abandonment because usually my mother forgot to pick me up at school, and I kept sitting at the door, on the doorstep for 1 hour, 2 hours, and I never knew whether she would come or not. Sometimes I thought she would leave me forever, and I thought I would die. And then finally, when she came, I couldn't connect with her because I lost faith on her. And then any sign, any trigger of abandonment may trigger this fear of deadly abandonment, of being abandoned to die alone.
Okay.
So the trickster will protect me from any possibility of being abandoned. I may become a jealous person, controlling my partner. Okay.
Can we go? Yeah. Now from Flamina. What is better strategy? To avoid the realization of the self-fulfilling prophecy? What better strategy to avoid the realization of the self-fulfilling prophecy?
First thing would be to understand that I am playing a trick on myself by giving energy to a self-fulfilling prophecy that I absolutely don't want to happen. So if I feed my energy into this strategy, I'm feeding energy into my energy field. And this energy field will attract whatever is planted there very intensively. So if I plant there, all men will fail me and hurt me. What will the trickster do? Protect me from having any relationship. Better be alone.
Okay. So next, from Elisa.
Good to see you, Liane. I was alone here talking to the black screen.
I was thinking about this, yes. So
thank you for coming out. You
Very
came
good.
out of your cave.
Yeah.
We are both
Yeah.
dressed in red. We didn't combine this.
Yeah, we didn't speak. So, next question from Elisa from Italian. What kind of approach can we use with early precocious resistance?
Early?
Precoce resistance.
Yeah. It's structural. It's another story. It's not the devil here. It's structural. This child will be missing some skills, and even the skill to build a secure attachment. Then we have to go to attachment theory. I can't trust secure attachment because we have those experiments, the secure and insecure. The child very early, the child is 2 years old and already knows the difference between a mother with whom I can build a secure attachment and the other mother, the child is like this. But it's structural. This child was hurt or abandoned or suffered very early. And we cannot blame the mother. It can be that this child was born before it was ready to be born and had to stay in the hospital for 2-3 months in an emergency crib. So it happens, this kind of separation, forced separation, that makes it very difficult to build a secure attachment. So there are hurts that happen. The war, you are working with people, Ukrainian, you mentioned people from Ukraine, they had to run away with their kids. And this mother is so scared. The kid cannot feel safe with this mother because the mother is in panic. Both are in panic. And this will leave a mark. If the child is too small, it will be structural. I always give this example. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but I was born in 1943 during the war. And yeah, Brazil was not in the war, but we had the signs of, they had to shut the curtains and turn out the lights. I don't know why, because we are not being bombed, but it happened. And there was no food for sale. Anyone felt threatened. And during that time, my mother's father was very ill, and he died while she was pregnant with me. And I am the only psychologist among 7 sisters.
Okay, now.
So I take care of my anxiety. I don't fight my anxiety. I take care of my anxiety.
Another question from Antonella. Could you explain the liquid relationship better and the association with resistance and negativity?
Well, we are living in a culture that proposes as natural that you don't have to feel, you must learn to live and be happy with relationships that are not safe. If you don't, you are not adapted in this culture. So you better be adapted. You find a partner for one night, and you don't want to have sex because you would like to have a loving partner, but you go and you have sex, and the next day you are waiting and expecting, oh, will he call me or not? What's going to happen? Maybe he doesn't call. And it's natural. You got to stand it. But it may trigger your early abandonment fear of death.
Now, next, we still have 2 questions.
Well, but just let me finish. And then you keep surfing on this wave of excitement. You got to do it again tomorrow and again tomorrow, because you are surfing in this wave of excitement, not to collapse into the abandonment trap.
It's okay?
Well, many people will say I am old and stupid or conservative. I am. Okay, next.
Gianluca, how does bioenergetic interpret the loss of a loved one in its meanings of grief and mourning? And who is the devil represented in grief?
Wow. Yeah. I'll try to bring an example. Just imagine a man, he's about 40, 50 years old. He never got along with his father. They never talked or exchanged intimate words, but they live socially. No? They live socially. But this man, deep, deep in his heart, he craved to be loved by this man. He craved. But it's very hard for men to exchange love. Okay? And sometimes love is taken by the devil and transformed into aggression, transformed into irony. So maybe this father usually, year after year, used irony as a means of communication. The intention was to communicate. Maybe there was a good, even an intention, if this father released it, he would embrace his son. But he would make some ironic observation every time. Wow, you bought a car, but this car, it isn't worth it. You could do something better of your life. Oh, yeah. And so they gone. And then this father dies. And this guy doesn't know how to process the bereavement, the loss. He must avoid, he must fall into the pit of those people who cannot process the loss. They just move on as if nothing had happened. And maybe maybe he will have some problem, some health problem. I had a client who was my client, and they were very very attached to the mother. And then when this mother died, my client could cry and process. and his brother developed an instant malignant this liver hepatitis, malignant. He almost lost his liver from a very quick and deadly hepatitis. So it was transformed into an attack against the body. The unprocessed bereavement process. So it may happen if the anger is held and not expressed when someone dies. Freud says that anger comes first, and it's denied. It's there. Even anger because, oh, you shouldn't have left me. A husband dies too early on a car accident, and the wife, she's angry. You shouldn't have provoked this accident. What can I do with these children? You couldn't do it to me.
We still have one question. Yeah? From Giorgio. Can you say something about the possible mask of the therapist in therapy?
Yes, it's wonderful. Then two masks together, they love each other. They play, they have pleasure, they embrace. They love each other. We see that when you are supervising life supervision, and you see the mask of the therapist, the mask of the client. The therapist wants to play the good mother, and the client wants to be the good child. And you can perceive they are both in a mask, that the client is full of rage, and it was never brought into the open. They have a good time together until a supervision breaks this, this wonderful match.
So we have no more questions. I think
Oh, what a shame.
Time, huh? Relax.
What a shame.
Look, Odila, lots of people here thanking you, saying it's beautiful. Grazie, obrigado. Lots of people, lots. They love it. They love it. I like it very much also. Thank you, was beautiful. And I like it very much the way you did about negativity and resistance. This is new and beautiful.
So I would ask just a few points to mark, okay? We must respect the window of tolerance. Something that Shapiro was sometimes questioned is because he worked with very high energy. It's not necessary. You can play with the devil playfully, lovingly, and bring it out if you get in symphony. The therapist must see that Shapiro said therapists should educate his own devil to be able to synchronize with the client's devil and play together and bring the right words to expose this negativity. And negativity and resistance, as they are so intertwined, they are taken one for the other. It's not easy to separate. Okay?
So,
Hi, Patricia. You were there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can send the bibliography. Maybe I'll send to you, and you manage to pass it to the people.
They want the slides also.
Yeah, I have already.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, the slides already I put for Marco. I put on the email for Marco, the slides. Okay, I'll send the bibliography. Okay, fine, pleasure.
Marco, and thank you all the translators, huh? They are fantastic, the translators.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice to see you, Patricia. Congratulations, Odila. Everybody say you are fantastic.
Yeah, it's incredible that we can laugh about it.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Okay, so shall we leave the meeting?
Yes. See you, Patricia. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Laura. Thank you,
Thank
Olga.
you.
Everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Thanks,
Liam.
everybody.
Thank you, Odila.
Odila, congratulations. Congratulations.
Thanks. Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.